Okay, hi everybody. It is January 15th, 2022. A lot of different energies all together, so I thought I would do a group collective reading again. So let's see, we've got, as of yesterday, Mercury went retrograde in Aquarius until January 25th, and it will move into Capricorn. You can see Mercury retrograde in action right now, and hopefully everything records nicely and I can upload and everything else. So Mercury retrograde in Aquarius. We still have the sun in Capricorn for the moment. We have the full moon in Cancer on the 17th. We are still feeling the energies of Venus retrograde in Capricorn since December. We've got Jupiter in Pisces, and that's going to keep going for another several months. And then we've got, on the 18th, we've got the North Node moving into Taurus, and it's going to stay there for 18 months. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the North and South Node, you can look up your date and time and place of birth. And your North Node has to do with your soul's purpose and quite often your career path, but it's also what really feeds your soul and why you're here and the things that make you do the things you do, the motivation and your reason for being ultimately is connected to that. Opposite that is the South Node, and that's often the things that pull against that and keep you away from that, the biggest challenges that might interfere with that, the strongest struggles that you face as an opposing force. So that's something for you to look at. But right now we've got the North Node in Taurus. So we are on the verge, we're on the cusp. As I'm saying that, I get goosebumps of a new era. We've done a lot of work in, the last several years, but really it accelerated at the end of 2021. And I think people felt it. They really felt like they were being tested and put through the ringer, and you name it, everything happened. Like every single thing happened. And with Venus retrograde in Capricorn, if you watch my other video on Venus retrograde in Capricorn with the winter solstice, that energy is still very much active. Now we've got this convergence of Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde comes up. Even when I did the weekly readings last week, there was a lot, I think probably 80% of you had people showing up from the past, people, patterns, habits, former loves, relationships, things like that popping up again. And if not the same people, the same lesson that you thought you dealt with or you thought you got over, no, they're still there. They're going to keep showing up. So I'm going to put my glasses on. There we go. Oh, so much better. So I'm not squinting throughout the whole reading. And I'm using the Crow deck. I had a visit from my Crow today. And I'm using the Curious Creatures deck. Oh, there we go. It's better. And this tiny little tarot deck by Dennis Fairchild, and some runes, and the Spirit Oracle deck, and that's it. That's it. Just those. Okay. So if you've been tuning into these for a while, you will know that I often just let the universe do what it wants to do. And it's doing it. Okay, let's see. Take the cards that are flying out. my goodness. Come on. Okay. Wow. Okay, this is wild. So the very first card that flew out quite rambunctiously was the High Priestess. So at this moment, despite the fact that communications, verbal communication, can't even say the word properly, verbal communications might be glitchy. All the normal things, computer stuff, technology, text messages not going through or being misinterpreted, all that stuff. There is other communication that's coming in really strong. So intuition, messages from out there, downloads, dreams, even the fact that we're coming into this full moon energy as well. The days are getting brighter. It's a full moon in Cancer, and that's the ruling. I mean, it's this Cancer is ruled by the moon. So it's like a double whammy right now. And then with that Mercury, it's like some heavy emotions, deep, deep, deep intuition. I think at this time, especially this weekend, you could do with some, just give your brain a rest, give your thoughts a rest. And if you can't focus on something like meditating or whatever, just take some time off from thinking, because I think there's not much you can do about the information that's going to come through. Don't go looking for it. It's going to be there. And that's also to say, not everything that you receive in your subconscious mind is going to be accurate either. Okay, it's going to be, things can get misinterpreted. So there's a lot of stuff that might not make sense. Oh, it's going to be fun. Sense. It won't make sense. So take your time and wait, hold off. Okay. Three of Wands too. It's Three of Wands, waiting for, there's this, again, holding tight, waiting. We had a tsunami warning here on the West Coast because of the volcano on Tonga Island. And we're kind of inland here in Vancouver, so it doesn't affect us, but the west coast of Vancouver Island and some of the Gulf Islands, or the ones that are in the Juan de Fuca Strait or whatever, for the US. And it's kind of that feeling of like, hold tight, just wait a minute here. And wands are also, time-wise, are like weeks. So it still feels like, okay, Mercury retrograde is a 3-week period. And here's our lovely Six of Cups, okay? People coming back from the past. And this can even be past life stuff. It can be people from a long time ago. It doesn't have to be recent. It might not be a love thing. It could be family members or friends or any of those kind of things. This is the time where it really shows up. And again, it's like a double whammy, because we've got Venus retrograde and we have Mercury retrograde. So it's just don't be surprised when it happens. And yet I still think people will be surprised, because it's like, oh, I was expecting it to happen. I just never expected it to be that person. That was the last person I thought it would be. So that's still there. And then the Hierophant too. And this is like giving me goosebumps as well, because there's this, it almost feels like we're putting pressure on ourselves, because we know that there's something very profound happening. And it's like, I want to know the secret. I want to know the profound thing. I want to know the answer to the universe. as we know, the answer to the universe is 42. So, but it's that feeling that you want to rush forward, but it's not quite the time. It's the time to just sort of like sit and let it arrive. And a lot of this too, a lot of the energy that has been happening is all about shifting into that divine feminine energy of receptivity. How to actually receive, how to be passive, not active. Creativity, intuition, those are passive, receptive, feminine energies. And the Hierophant is like the highest form of just about anything. So it's the highest form of spirituality, or it's the highest form of a love relationship. So having the Six of Cups here with this is very much in line with that soulmate cycle, or your soul family cycle, twin flame journey. It's really getting heightened here. So it'll be interesting to see how that shifts as we move into the lunar new year on the new moon in February. And so this is all the information flying in. It's not that there's no information coming in. There's a lot of it. There's a lot of downloads happening. This little crow cannot catch all of these wands being flung in his general direction. So you have to just you have to maybe sit there and see what lands closest to you, go in and inspect it, and see if all of that information that is coming to you is actually meant for you. Is it all necessary? Does it all apply? Or maybe it all applies, but it doesn't apply now. Maybe only a fraction of it applies now. Maybe none of it applies now. Maybe you're supposed to just collect it and save it for later. But it's coming in. That's the thing. That's what's the most profound part of this period, is that we are getting inundated finally of like, oh, receiving. We are in receptive mode, receiving mode. We are not in the transmitting mode right now. Especially if you are following that soulmate cycle. The divine feminine is hopefully learned their lesson and is sitting there going, no, I'm going to sit and receive the information now. I'm not doing, I'm not thinking, I'm going to be very passive and wait for the other part of that. You know, when you think of the yin and yang, you know, we need to at some point balance it out. If one part is doing all the work, whether it's the self-healing or whatever, the other part doesn't have that space to fill up. So you create a little bit of a void, and the other part can fill the void. Okay, and then we have the Queen of Cups. And this is like the Empress of the minor arcana. So it's really about, again, with, you know, the Six of Cups there, and then the High Priestess. There's a lot of deep, deep emotions. And then with the Hierophant, it's like highly evolved emotions. Being able to be detached, setting forth your intentions, and actually being able to sit back, knowing that the universe is going to do what it's supposed to do so that you can receive the stuff that you've been trying to manifest. There's no more, you know, not to quote Yoda, but, you know, there is no try. There is do or do not do. However he said it, you get the gist of it. I'm going to just switch decks for a second. Switch over to the curious creatures here. Okay, so the Queen of Wands came out. This is almost, it's almost a conflicting energy with the Queen of Cups. it's almost like the alter ego or the alternate. The Queen of Cups is this nurturing, motherly, deep, intuitive, creative, warm, deep energy, mother energy of the minor arcana. It's always offering love. It's unconditional love. The Queen of Wands is fiery and it's creative and it's intuitive, but um, there's a quicker nature to it. And there's that temptation of sometimes the Queen of Wands is the energy of, cutting off your nose to spite your face. And so keep reminding yourself that a little bit of just extra consideration at this time. And that might be, that might be the Mercury retrograde aspect where you're dealing with things, they might not be what you think they are. You're looking at documents, then maybe there's an error. You don't want to sign something. It can be that. It can be like, did I hear that person say what I think they said? Or was there a tone in their voice? Or they use this word. Does that mean, so it's, don't jump to conclusions at this time. And in relation to that, we've also got the Hangman and the Nine of Pentacles. So there is that feeling of wanting to be around people and either to nurture or be nurtured or needing that support. And there's nothing wrong with that. But there is also this solitary feeling. And there's also this feeling of, all those seeds that you planted back in 2021 and even 2020 in some cases, the beginnings of that, even if it might be different things, it might have been different things, but there was an energy put into motion of things you want to achieve or the feeling that you want to have once you've achieved those things. That was initiated then, maybe even as far back as 2019. And the money is beginning to flow, and there's still this solitary kind of vibe there. And there is communication and information and prosperity happening. Slower energy, but it's finally coming. Like the slow part is in the past. The receiving part, ready to receive it, is now, in the next little bit anyway. And the Hangman, there is a bit of a pause still because things don't happen the way we want to when Mercury goes retrograde. So looking at things from a different angle, hanging out, looking at things, it's not a bad energy. Sometimes people think of the Hangman like it's like death, somebody's cut you up and they're, you're being hanged. It's not that at all. It's just kind of caught up there in a little bit of a trap. And while you're there, you get to see things from a very unique perspective that you wouldn't have seen standing up. So something happened and now you're upside down and you're going, wow, this is interesting. And that's about it. It's not a place where you should feel bad. And it's things that are in the major arcana are they're typically higher arcing energies, more evolved energies. And it's also a number 3. So we had an 8 in the other one, but 9s, 3s, 6, 3, 6, 9, that's Tesla energy. Now the 6 of Swords, the tortoise and the hare here depicted. Believe it or not, the 6 of Swords is a slow moving energy. It is escaping certain difficulty. So if you planned for this properly, and this, I don't mean Mercury retrograde, but the things that you want, you actually took all the steps. It was exhausting and you did it and you kept applying yourself and it was very slow and you thought it was never going to happen. You were worried that maybe certain negative things would happen, but you took precautions and you're still kind of anxious or fearful even. The 6 of Swords is escaping certain difficulties and being able to move away from whatever that tension was with some degree of comfort where you don't have to look back, that you're actually able to go like, oh my God, I made it out of, like, did I actually make it out of like the rough patch here? And the Seven of Wands. So the Seven of Wands is a very defensive card. Now, it's, I don't want to say defensive, like in the way a person can be defensive without reason. It is standing firm in your position. So there's a lot of these cards, a lot of the energy has come up where there's that feeling of holding your position, hold firm, don't plow forward, don't retreat, but hold, wait. And that's the same vibe that I'm getting with this in this case. It's often not that meaning. It's protecting your position, yes, standing in your light, not dimming your light, not changing your opinion when you know, even in the face of adversity, if you really believe what you believe, you know, those kind of things. But in this case, it's just like hold steady, do not cave. Okay. For some reason, I'm not, the cards at the bottom of the deck are not ringing out to me here. Let's just see if there's anything else. Okay, that's it. So, can't make this up. The Moon and the Lovers. Okay, just looking at them. This white dress is howling at the moon. Another shadow side over here. Okay, and that full moon is right there. And the Lovers. So we have another 6. And the moon is an 18, so that's a 9. Okay. 6 and a 9. I think in this case, you know, sometimes the Lovers, it's about a choice. I think there's a lot of choices here. There's a lot of things coming through. I think the full moon is going to bring out a lot of emotions. And I think a lot of those will be maybe heart-wrenching emotions, deep, deep feelings, looking back to with nostalgia. You know, we had the 6 of Cups there too, and soulmate stuff. And we've been in a really fun time these last 2 years. And so there's a yearning aspect going on here. But again, it's like there's illusions as well. So whatever's popping up at this time, it's not that it's not real. It is in a certain context. It is. Outside of that context, well, you have to just wait a couple of days to see how that applies in a different context, not just the glow of the full moon context. So just go deep. I would say go deep. It's okay. Even if it involves other people, that's fine. Be cautious about how you communicate. Things might be misconstrued. You might misconstrue. But I think there's nothing horrible here. So just keep that in mind. That's all I can say. Keep it in mind. I think a lot of positive things will come out of it. A lot of awareness, self-awareness, awareness in general will come out of it. We've had these two before. We've had these two. I put everything back in the deck. and I shuffled it. You heard me shuffling and all that stuff. The Queen of Wands and the Nine of Pentacles. So again, be careful what you say. Maybe saying nothing and just going with feelings and actions might be a little better. Try and stay in the material world a little bit more than, when I say material world, at least the physical, the tangible world. When it comes to your emotions and all that deep stuff, do that on your own, I think. It's not necessary to communicate all the thoughts. If it's still, if it's applicable, 4 days after the full moon, then fine. If not, keep it to yourself. And then you can share. I think if you do that, instead of enjoying and being around people who are like you, it's almost this feeling of gossip. So that's where the warning comes in, for sure. Okay. Now, the card of the week that we had as well in the class was the Empress. So it is that divine feminine energy again. It is Venus. It is the more exalted version of the Queen of Cups with all the queens. It is in the soulmate cycle. It is the divine feminine. It is the energy of Mother Earth, nature, the moon. This is the third deck I'm using. We're getting repeating cards fly out. That's too many. Okay, I'm going to just hold off for a second because it's the first two cards that came out. Eight of Wands and the High Priestess. Okay. Communication, so much information coming through. Let me know if you did get downloads over the next, well, we're the 15th today. So yeah, I would say right up until the 21st, right? Yeah. Even the 25th. It's going to be a really interesting time. Just having these two things together, so much information, even my ears are buzzing right now. And sort of blocking and unblocking. Lots of pressure there. So there's a lot of information that wants to come through. I might do an audio of any kind of channeled message that needs to come through as well. There's this feeling of, none of it hasn't come up. The 10 of Wands hasn't come up, but I'm physically getting the sensation of burden, of carrying around a burden. And I know the last collective reading I did, there was a lot of 10 energy, and 10s being the end, just about to renew the cycle. And that's, it's not showing up in the cards, but I'm sensing it in my body. Come on now. This is really heavy. The moon again. Okay. When it gets to that point where we're just saying the same thing over and over again. Okay. 10 and 10, 20. Judgment. This is the final thing. We're just ready to emerge. So I love this card because it's a butterfly or a moth or something that's transformed. And there's the key. They're carrying the key for the next phase. And it is the completion of something. It is like the final decisive thing. So when we're sitting back there with the 3 of Wands and then the 8 of Wands coming through so many times in every deck so far, it's, you really want to go for it. It's like, oh my gosh, all the stuff is finally flowing to me but you can't make sense of that much stuff. So you have to kind of just wait. It's almost like, imagine, the depiction of the Eight of Wands. I mean, in this one, it's a wheel and it's spinning. You can see the little motion there. In all of the other decks, it's like arrows, like a volley of arrows flying. You can't try and catch them in midair. You have to sit still and let them fall. Then you can go pick them up and see what's what. Imagine there were messages attached to those arrows. And this is, okay, once you do that and you go look at everything, you have to go and interpret all that information and see if any of it applies to you. And if it applies to you, how does it apply? When does it apply? How can you use it? What is for now? What is for later? So imagine that you get all these little, we've had the Eight of Wands repeatedly, and imagine every single one of them has a little message tied to it. And now you've got to go decipher that and see how it pertains to you. You don't know what it's going to say. And there's a lot of emotion connected to it. So imagine every one of those things, or 80% of the things, also has an emotional trigger, something from your past, connected to a person of your past, connected to a pivotal moment in your personal or spiritual evolution. Okay, now you see the heaviness of this. And I don't mean heavy in that it's going to be debilitating or really difficult, but it is important. And judgment is important. When you think of judgment in a legal battle, judgment is the most important part. That's where the decision is made. Okay. If there's anything, there is something. There is something. We got a 10. Okay. 10 of Swords. This might be you right now actually thinking, okay, you're beginning to overthink everything I just said. Forget about it. Forget about it. All right. And then it's the Lovers again. And, these cards are really cute here. So there is fertility, there is growth, there is abundance, but it's not yet. So we've passed the most arduous part, where we've gone through the cycle of you better look inward, you better fix all the mistakes, you better take ownership, be authentic, have integrity, all of that, tidy it up. And then a lot of people didn't, for whatever reason. They either procrastinated or just thought that the passage of time itself would be enough to do it. And then it got revisited. And then it was like, hey, it's me again. You were supposed to do this work, this inner work. Knocking to say, there's a bunch of stuff in this box, in the attic that you didn't look at. It's not going to clear itself. And at that point, you may or may not have decided to look at it. Then you had one more chance in November. And if you hadn't looked at it then, it actually exploded like a bag of feces on your doorstep. Like that's what happened. So if you had looked at it and everything, it didn't turn into that, but it's kind of what happened. Then you had to clean that up. You had no choice. You had to clean that up once and for all. And then December came and you started feeling like, okay, finally, things are moving forward. And then it's like, is it really moving forward, or is there going to be another negative surprise behind door number 3? Or, in our case, door number 217 kind of thing. And now here we are, January, and the vibe is lighter, and it's like, hey, there's action, there's traction, there's information coming in, people are showing up, it's great. And then, oh, Mercury retrograde. Like, didn't we just have a Mercury retrograde and we just get rid of that? And there's actually 4 this year. And not to scare you, but the last one is like I think the 28th of December. So, you know, it's not too bad. We usually only get 3 a year. So it's kind of like the way a blue moon happens. Let's just see. Page of Wands and the 4 of Cups. So it's just saying, you know, pay attention to what's coming in. You don't have to act. Just pay attention. There are messages. There are messages. There are messages. It's not all relevant right now. I haven't used this cup in ages. Anyhow. Okay. I'm going to pull a rune or 2 or 3. Excuse me. Oh. This is so interesting because that one flew out. I'll pull out the other one. Okay, so I pulled out need. I actually picked that one out of the bag. So it's things that that you might actually require, even if you don't think you do. What is what is meant for you is coming to you, and it's not necessarily what you want. So don't get afraid of that. Don't get afraid of that, because what it is, there's unknown factors from your limited perspective, from our limited perspective. There are unknown factors, and the stuff that's coming through that you've been working towards and asking for, there are so many moving parts outside of your awareness that having this, yeah, it's a bit of a delay. There is a delay there, but it's a necessary delay. You might even be prevented from screwing things up to a certain extent. So, you know, if you do lose your marbles, this almost feels like a bag of marbles, actually, during this time with the deep emotions and all the information and the people from the past and all that stuff, you probably won't screw it up. You might feel like you do if you take action, but I don't think you actually will for most of you. So the stuff that happens, the information that comes in, will be what is needed, not necessarily what you think should happen. Okay, so the universe knows what it's doing, even if you don't. And then we have, there we go. These don't really, there we go. Gebo or Gifu. It's a gift, literally. And this keeps tilting, doesn't it? Okay. It's very strong. It's a strong rune for partnerships and relationships. It is a gift. It's something that shows up that makes you happy. So when you have that flying out when I pulled need, I think that's a good thing. I don't think you should worry about the delay or being given something that you think you didn't want or didn't know about. Okay, it feels, having Gifu there, or Gebo, however it's spelt in different translations, it's really a good thing, and you'll be happy. Once Mercury goes direct, once that new moon happens, once we are in the year of the tiger, there's a whole new chapter unfolding. And to corroborate that, energy. We also have Arcana. This is really the time where literally it's giving birth. And figuratively, you can be giving birth to a lot of things. Now, the card of the week was the Empress, and I should have taken that out actually. The Empress is often depicted as a pregnant woman. And when you think about the activity going on in that time, it is really the definition of passive energy, because you're creating a whole new person in there, but you don't have to think about how it happens. You did the initial thing that started it in motion, and then you take care of yourself and you let it do its thing. It takes 9 months typically for that birth to happen, right? You can't speed it up, you can't slow it down. Sometimes it takes longer, sometimes it's sooner, but generally it's that. It's not a 3-week thing. You can't shorten it to 3 weeks. So there's this, it's not even a feeling of patience, because we didn't even get temperance. It's not that feeling. It's a feeling of like, just hold back. Like, it's not about being patient. It's about sort of stopping yourself from messing it up. Like, you have a wheel turning. You don't go put a stick in the middle of the spokes. Like, let it wind down naturally, that kind of thing. Okay. I hope that's helpful. I hope it's helpful. I don't feel that this Mercury retrograde is, I don't want to ever say that they're bad, but they bug us. The one that we had in October, that was a doozy. That had the shadow period on either side. It was just, I don't know. That one just, it had very far-reaching capabilities. Let's just put it that way. The fact that this one is in Aquarius and then in Capricorn, it's almost useful in a way, not youthful, useful in action. And there we go. And with all those other positive influences like Venus and Jupiter and Pisces, like Jupiter and Pisces, I love it because I'm a Pisces, but it's a really fun place to be. It is where you can manifest stuff. And then, okay, so this is what flew out. All right. And it says, so on the back is where it says the thing. I love the way it's like a headline for the whole reading. It says, do not lose sight of your original intention. Check inside your heart to see if the path you are traveling fits in with your original hopes and aspirations. If not, take action, take control, and steer your life back on course. Not after, don't do it yet. Wait until after the 18th. Those illusions. Let me see if there's anything else. Mess here. Okay. Infinity. Dearest one, rest within the light of your soul. Feel my spirit alive within you, the spirit of the goddess of nature, the earth and stars. Accept the love and light we shower upon you. That is really the Empress energy. I'm going to read that again. Dearest one, rest within the light of your soul. Feel my spirit alive within you, the spirit of the goddess of nature, the earth and the stars accept the love and light we shower upon you. I think that is really the first card that came out, which is right. Is that the one? No. The first card that came out, intention, was sort of like reminding us a little bit about one part of what I said. And then this is really the headline, I think, for the reading. So there you go. I hope that is helpful. I won't worry too much about navigating during this time. Other than you're going to feel, I think, an extreme variety of emotions. Very high highs and very weepy lows. And I'm not going to say low lows because I don't think it's that. I think it's really deep inner feelings that you know, if you were having trouble crying about something, I think it might just come out of nowhere, and or laughter, or a sudden epiphany, an awareness, the missing puzzle piece, suddenly understanding why something kept repeating, or what that relationship was for, or why did that lesson appear in the way that it did over and over and over again. Okay, so there you go. I am going, today is Saturday the 15th, so tomorrow I will do the readings for all the individual signs for the week ahead. All right, have a great week, everybody.